Oh, hey. So, yeah. This will be episode 13, I believe. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry. But
okay.
I believe it's episode 13. Today we have Billy Lister. He's a singer, songwriter, storyteller, if you will, out of Texas. He's also a podcaster. He hosts his own podcast called the All at Sea podcast. It's pretty similar to our podcast. He's kind of sits down, just talks to people like we do. So check him out, All at Sea. You can check out his music too. He's got Instagram, all that good stuff. I think it's Billy Lister Music is his Instagram personal one, and then an All at Sea podcast Instagram. So check him out. Yeah, this is actually our first episode we have done online where we weren't face to face with the person. So I don't know how the audio quality is going to be with internet lagging, stuff like that, but hopefully it sounds good enough for you. He also released this same exact episode on his podcast. And I did listen to some of it, and the audio did sound kind of shitty, so we'll see.
Oh, good.
But yeah, so we did this online with him, and we're going to probably do a few more of these online because we have a little bigger of a reach to get some people on here doing it that way. But,
Billy.
yeah, it was a good conversation.
Yeah.
Check out his stuff. What's new with you, Kevin Sommer? Stuff and things?
Yeah, dude. I probably need a little bit more food. My brain's
not working.
Not today.
We also already recorded a full podcast before we did this. So, all right. Well, I hope you guys enjoy. If you are enjoying, please tell somebody about the podcast. We're trying to grow this thing, and we're gonna need your guys' help to do so. It's continuing to. It's a slow burn, but it's growing, man. It's
a slow grow.
Yeah. Seems like every episode we get a couple more downloads to it. And we want to, if you guys want us to keep doing this, we need to keep it growing, because if it's not growing, then what's the point? I don't know. Actually, it's kind of fun. Even if people weren't listening, it's kind of a fun little thing to do. But
yeah.
All right. Well, yeah. So tell somebody about the damn podcast.
Yeah. Come on, guys.
Tell them to download it. Please like, follow, subscribe, leave reviews, do all that good stuff. And we will talk to you later. We hope you enjoy the episode.
Bye.
So it's kind of weird when you're not face to face. It's a little bit different.
It's very weird, man. It's a couple of the guests that I've had where it's, I try to do the video like I was telling you guys. It's really cool when I can get it to work, but with the internet bogging down so bad, it's kind of weird when you're just looking at like a logo or a name. And I have to catch myself a lot because I'll be listening to the guests that I have on and forget that I'm hosting.
Mm-hmm.
So then I'll just be listening to what they're saying and be like, oh man, this is a cool podcast. Oh crap, I need to say something.
Yeah, it's like I was telling you a little while ago, everybody we've had so far has been in person. So doing this through a computer screen is a little different, but like you said, it's cool because you can connect with people all over the world if you wanted to.
Yeah. And that's the neat part about it. There's some good pros to technology and what we have access to today. So
for sure.
There's a light there.
Mm-hmm.
But so why don't you guys kind of tell me a little bit about your show and kind of what got y'all started on that, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So me and Kevin here, we've been friends since we were really young, elementary school age, and we were real close as kids, and as we got a little older out of high school, Kevin joined the military and went and did his thing in the military, and we kind of went our own ways. And he was living pretty much all over the world for a while there. And then when he got out of the military, he moved back, and I'll let him tell you his whole story here in a little bit, I guess. But we would only kind of get together when we'd get together with groups of friends, either to like watch fights, or if it's someone's birthday or whatever, we'd get together. And then a few years ago, I was actually doing Uber on the side to make extra money. And Kevin he's a full-time student right now, and I knew he was, extra money never hurts anybody. So I told him, I'm like, dude, this is pretty easy. You just drive drunk people around. You can make some money, So
yeah.
And so he started doing that as well. And so what would happen is we'd be out driving around on the weekends in the middle of the night, and I'd call him and say, hey man, you want to take a break? We'll pull into a parking lot and BS for a little bit. So that's what we would do. And we started doing that, about half hour or so. We'd sit there and just talk and talk. And we started to get really close again. And so over a couple year period, we kind of came back together, I guess you would say, to the point now where we both own homes in the same neighborhood. Our kids play together, and we're just, pretty close friends. So anyways, we were both big podcast listeners and fans, and we've talked about starting our own for ever, like a year at least. And we finally, it was about 2 or 3 months ago, decided to go ahead and do it. So we fired it up, and it's rolling now. So yeah,
man, that's awesome.
And yeah, like I said, our show is pretty similar to yours. We sit down and talk to people from all different kinds of backgrounds and lives, and kind of hear their stories, and it's kind of fun.
Yeah, man, it's a lot of fun when you get to talk to a variety of people, and it's an interesting palette of personalities, and the diversity is a great pool of tools to learn from, and it's never boring for me, and getting started with this deal, it's exciting to see kind of what will attract different people and what won't. So it's a fun learning curve for me that I've found.
Yeah. But how did you get started? What made you want to get started in the podcasting?
Oh man, I'm a podcast nerd. I love listening to a variety of different shows, and I have for a very long time. And it was a couple of years ago, back in 2018. So in January of 2018, I started a podcast called Got Your Six. And I had originally wanted to do an idea of bridging a gap between civilian and veteran communities. And we had gotten wind that the guys from Black Rifle were going to be moving down to our hometown down here. And so we thought, well, if we were going to start a podcast that was in this niche, maybe that would be a good idea. Since those guys will be local, maybe we could make some stuff happen and try to bridge that gap. Well, nothing ever culminated from that. And due to current circumstances current circumstances of my life and job and the things that were going on, just kind of went downhill. It went very sideways. It just turned into kind of a big circus, in all honesty. And it was fun. We just kind of got on there and just it was cathartic in the sense of being able to just, talk crap and vent a little bit about frustrations and current events that were going on in the world. But that was not really the point of what I had originally wanted it to be. And so I had about a year's worth of experience doing that, and honestly did not learn a whole heck of a lot from it. And so that was kind of a disappointing thing. And I was around extremely toxic people, negative environments, and just going downhill fast. And so with this past year, I'm a singer-songwriter. So I've had this past year about 30 or more gigs canceled this year. So the rug was kind of pulled out from underneath me. And I was trying to think of, well, what could I do that would be a way to stay positive, to stay encouraged, and what could I do? And I thought, well, maybe I should try looking at a podcast again. And so I was kind of kicking around some ideas, and I've struggled with depression pretty much my entire life, and it's something that you kind of, for anybody who struggled with it, it's a deal where you learn how to mitigate it one day, but then another can hit you in a completely different way. And so the more tools you have to work on that, the better. And so I thought, man, now would be a perfect opportunity to meet with people who are better than me, people who are smarter, more successful, would help me step up my game in any way possible. And so it was a completely selfish reason originally to start this podcast was I want to talk to people who are, in just a lack of a better way of phrasing it, better than myself. Yeah. And to learn as much as I possibly could from them and their experiences and, you know, what I've gone through, and just kind of talk back and forth and learn new things. And so now it's kind of turned into a pretty cool platform to share other people's testimonies and their stories and their experiences, and to reach a lot of people who otherwise would never have heard those stories. So it started completely selfish.
I think that's we have that in common. Yeah, because we fired this up, like I said, because we were podcast fans, most of all. We just kind of wanted to be part of it.
Yeah.
And originally, like, our first few episodes were kind of more like an interview. Like, we were asking question after question after question, and that's not really what we were shooting to do. We wanted to, kind of like we're doing now, have more of just a conversation. And those are the podcasts I enjoy listening to, is where people are just themselves and they're having a conversation.
Likewise,
and it's kind of slowly morphed into that, and that's what we were shooting for, which has been cool. And what's really cool, and I'm sure you've probably experienced this too, is people will come on here and they really open up. They'll tell, like, there's people we've had on that I've known for years, and they'll tell us things I had no idea, some kind of personal stuff. And it's kind of cool that people will open up and kind of share what they've been through, you know?
Yeah, it's you know, podcasts are definitely cheaper than therapy, that's for sure. Yeah, and you're right though. It's kind of a weird, kind of an ethereal thing when you put the headphones on and you get into the microphone and you're talking back and forth with somebody. It kind of puts you in this little, you know, cone of silence, as it were, and you just kind of get into this little groove with people, and it's really interesting. It's a very unique experience when you have somebody in studio, or, you know, via Zoom. It can happen, but you know, the in-person deal it's really interesting how that can open up and tear down walls that otherwise a normal conversation you wouldn't be able to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like you said, when you have those headphones on, it's like you're in a whole different world.
Yeah.
Like, I've noticed, even I'll take, like, if I got to use the bathroom or something, I'll pull the headphones off and go. And it's like you just left a different place. It's weird. Kind of hard to explain.
Yeah, it's super strange because it just feels like it kind of envelops you in this new universe of, you know, possibility that you're perfect. I mean, that's a perfect example when you take your headphones off to just go take a leak. You're like, man, what the heck? Where was I? It's very strange, you know?
Yeah, not totally.
Yeah. And so that was kind of my genesis with the show. And the old show, Got Your Six, it was pretty cool. It would have been a really cool idea to do it the right way. I wish, going back, that I could have done some good with it. And, you know, it was a pretty cool experience. You know, I got to connect with some vets who did some really cool things, and some vetrepreneurs, as they call themselves. But, you know, it was a pretty neat deal. Looking back on it, there are a lot of highlights. It wasn't all just completely negative. But, you know, taking and learning what I can from those experiences and putting it into this show to hopefully, you know, the goal is to spread some positivity with, you know, people's stories. And, you know, I really enjoy the podcast where you sit down and you feel like a fly on the wall, right? Where you just feel like you get to be like privileged to a conversation that you otherwise would never have gotten to hear. That was one of the things that I really wanted to do with this podcast, was to try to let listeners be a fly on the wall.
Mm-hmm. No, that's awesome. That's a great perspective to have, I think, for a podcast. Is, don't force anything. Just let them engage by just being part of the conversation or listening to it, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's that's our podcast has kind of turned into what you were just talking about. We've had a lot of vets on, and that was not a goal of this podcast. Kevin, being a vet himself, is kind of cool because when another vet does come on, they'll open up a little bit to him and him as well. Yeah. He's opened up a couple times about some stuff, which is pretty cool. And we've had a lot of veterans on, and it's really, like, I've talked about this on our show before, but I've always been kind of fascinated with the military world, and I was never in the military, but I've always been fascinated with people that were in the military, things like that.
Likewise.
To me, they have a different perspective on life that people like me or you will probably never have.
Right.
Because of things that they've had to, do in their life. And it's a whole different perspective that I just love the way most veterans look at things. And our show's kind of turned into, like, a place for veterans to come out and talk, and that wasn't the plan, but we've had a lot of them so far.
Yeah, that's really cool, man. So Kevin, what branch did you serve in, and what was your MOS?
I was in the Army. I was a 11 Bravo, Bravo 4, so that's sniper qualified. I was also a sniper team leader in Afghanistan.
Wow.
Yeah, that was basically what I did.
Man.
Yeah, no, it was an experience. It was a journey for sure. Found out a lot about myself, and I think it opened the doors for the capacity to do that afterwards too. Not to get stuck in one ego or one identity, and being able to kind of have an eclectic personality.
Yeah,
have various interests, a lot of things. I still play drums in a metal band. And I'm still wanting to pick up a guitar or piano. There's 3 languages I'm looking after right now. It's French, Latin, and Egyptian Arabic.
Oh, nice.
Like, there's things that I don't mind putting other parts of my ego aside to learn new things, and a lot of that I think stems from the military.
Yeah,
and for a lot of vets, and a lot of people in general, because I've met people that are not veterans that have that. And so I just have to just know what I want to be doing at any given time in my life, because I'm not the guy who's going to go work at the same job until I'm done.
Right.
Yeah. So it was a cool experience. I mean, it has ups and its way downs, but it happened, and everything is the way it is, I guess.
Yeah. So did you go in post 9/11?
Yeah, I went in. I signed up November or December of 2007.
Okay.
And I got out December of 2012, maybe January 2013, something like that. Mm-hmm. ATS.
Yeah.
So just 5 years. I didn't do 20 or anything like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't like you weren't going to go be career military.
No. I thought 2 deployments was probably enough, and then I can go do something else and broaden my horizons. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, man.
I was really,
go ahead.
Oh, no, I was really tied up at the end because I had all these goals and essentially plans of going to selection, becoming a Green Beret and everything, and that did not pan out with my injuries and everything. They were just you're not going to do shit, But so part of it wasn't really just my choosing either. It was just the things that happened, and I had to accept that too.
Yeah.
I was going to say, you didn't have much choice in getting hurt,
Yeah.
And Kevin's talked about it on our show a few times. I mean, he's got a lot of blast injuries and things like that probably put a hold on some of the stuff he would have liked to have done in the military, but he's gone on since then. Tell him what you're doing now. You're doing some cool stuff with school. And
I'm doing the astrophysics emphasis at BSU. And that's super cool just to go be a nerd, because I've wanted to do that since I was 6. And
right.
It's interesting how us with Justin, being able to go to school for that and fucking blow people's minds, because everyone there is young for once. For instance, and they have an idea of reality in their minds because of, I think, movies and stereotypes growing up. Mm-hmm. And who the fuck is this guy? You know, like, like he looks athletic for one. Like, and he calls us fucking nerds when he walks in the room. Like, I just give him a hard time because a lot of people in that program feel they have to fit a type of narrative to be in that program. Like, you got to be 22 years old and still playing fucking Dungeons and Dragons, right?
Right. And
it's like, you don't have to be that person.
Yeah.
You don't have to be an engineering student. You don't have to dress like a fucking idiot, like most engineering students wear like fucking jeans, cowboy boots, with a North Face shirt and a stupid fucking hat. Like, they all dress the same. Like, there's a dress code to be a mechanical engineer versus like a civil engineer. Like, it's interesting. Everybody falls into that. Everybody falls in these little like niches because they're trying to, I think, find their place. They're trying to connect. I think I get that. So yeah. Anyway, it's interesting being in that program and being around people that are like blown away that you're even there. You're like, man, what's this? What's this fucking knuckle dragger doing in here?
Well, that's funny because Kevin, our whole life has been athletic, always into sports, and then went away to the military. Always like really masculine meathead stuff. And knowing him as long as I've known him, I always knew he was really smart. And when we were kids, it was almost like he kind of tried to hide that so people wouldn't make fun of him. He would kind of go extra masculine on things, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
To kind
lots of red meat and duct tape.
Yeah, exactly. And to kind of show like, I'm not a nerd, and I always knew he was super smart.
Yeah.
And then, of course, after he does military, then he gets out of the military, he opens up his own CrossFit gym that was super successful here in Boise. And then he stepped away from that, and next thing you know, he's majoring in astrophysics. And it's like, I always knew he had that in him. And it's cool to see him follow what he really wanted to do,
Yeah, that's awesome.
But, yeah, and our guest 2 episodes ago is in his class with him.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a whole career with the government before he got into school. He's in his 50s now, and he's a double major in college. And so they kind of talked about that. It's a different type of person going in that class, and it can show those young kids that it doesn't have to be a stereotype to be smart.
No. Well, and that there's no limit age-wise when you can go and do something.
For sure. Yes. For sure.
And there's no time limit. That's one of my biggest pet peeves, with what I do with music is, there's a lot of people who's like, oh, well, if you're not in your late teens, early 20s, you're not going to be successful at it. And it's like, anybody ever heard of Chris Christopherson? He didn't hit it until he was 40.
Yeah.
So there's no time limit. It'll happen when it happens, when you put the hard work and dedication into it. And that goes into pretty much every avenue of life. And so one of the things that I like about what you've been saying is, with, you've got those 3 languages that you want to learn, the hobbies, the different things, there's a lot of activity that you can give your brain. And, going through a lot of the guys who I've talked with or women that I've talked with in the military, one of the biggest things is the mission and purpose and finding that directive for each day. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And, idle hands are the devil's workshop is the adage, right? So if you've got goals in mind of, man, I want to learn these languages, or, I want to learn piano or guitar or, astrophysics or whatever, there's that directive and there's that goal and that mission. And when you accomplish that thing, guess what? You're going to be hungry for more, right? That's what I've found. And so that's a really cool experience for you to be able to go in from your time in the service to now going to college. But I think the common denominator with that is just the willingness to learn, and you hit the nail on the head with getting the ego out of the way to do it.
Yeah, no, totally. Like once you make everything habitual, right?
Yeah,
like I gotta get up, I gotta do something, I gotta be better, try to move towards a better way of life, or just always feel like you're moving forward.
Yeah.
And you can't do that if you don't have those habitual aspects in your life. Like if you just get up and you're like, I'm indecisive right out of bed, like you may not accomplish anything, and your depression might get worse.
Yeah.
Your anxiety, because now you're too much in your head because you're not doing,
Right.
You're just thinking, and Yeah.
But that's kind of where the name of our podcast comes from. It's mission prep, is to be prepared to take on a mission in life. And it's, we went over about, 7 million different names to name our podcast. And I'm sure you've been there.
Oh, yeah.
But we were throwing ideas back and forth, and then actually Kevin's the one that came up with mission prep, and that has a little bit to do with his military background. But I mean, everything in life you're going to do, whether it's, join the military or go to school or just go do your job or take care of your children, whatever, it's all a mission. Yeah. And preparing for a mission is the way to succeed, I believe. And so that's kind of where the name came from. And so what you're saying about having like a mission to do something, that's something we believe in for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's a paramount thing. And if you fail to prepare, you're prepared to fail. And, that's, the Boy Scout motto of always be prepared is pretty apropos for pretty much every aspect of your life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's easier said than done, of course.
But,
yeah.
That is a fact.
Yeah, sometimes you can't just wake up and be in control of your emotions and just have a great fucking day. Sometimes they're taking control of you, and you have to just try to survive or adapt to that day.
Yeah.
Yeah, and everybody, I think a lot of people go through that, and it's just being positive at the end of the road.
Yeah,
fucking getting through it.
Yeah, and that's the thing with being all at sea is you're going to find yourself there either by the choices that you've made or by the circumstances that life throws at you. So how are you going to do it? What are you going to do to get through it? Are you going to let the waves take you down? Or are you going to fight and get through it? And it's not going to be an easy road. So one of the things that I've had to struggle with for myself was struggling for that betterment and being that attitude of, well, I want to become better, I want to do better. And then when the mistakes happen, or, I'm being somewhat of a perfectionist, it doesn't go the way that I think it should, of not being defeated, but going, no, it's a step in the right direction. And celebrating the small victories of like, did I, check off my to-do list today? And did I do it well? Did I put 100% effort into it? Yes. Great. Did I learn something new? Great. Whatever the small victory for the day is, to focus on that and to be positive. And to just tackle it with that and not allow the setbacks or, quote unquote failure to become the mountain out of a molehill. And that's been the hardest thing for me. So with, shows like what you guys are doing with, having a mission for life, right? So mission prep is a great analogy for that as well. And so I think that's a great correlation between what you guys are doing, what I'm doing with our podcast is letting the humanity into life, because a lot of people are afraid to just be human. I know I was for a very long time. Mm-hmm. And it's raw, it's real, it's imperfect, and that's how it's going to be. And you can always strive to do better. And guess what? You're going to be better on some days than you are others. And, so I don't know if you guys did any research on my show with, who I talk a lot about my dad. And so my dad has been a major fixture in my life with, helping me through, very traumatic experiences as a kid to, just kind of growing up to now being a man. He's like my best friend. And so he's, my dad is a master engraver. So he does a lot of engraving on firearms and jewelry and stuff. But
cool.
He's been doing that since he was 17. And so with that, he's also a musician, and he's extremely proficient musician. And I get so hard on myself whenever I perform, being a songwriter. And I'm blessed to have my dad actually play lead guitar for me when we go play and do shows. So it's a pretty neat experience there. But he always tells me, he's like, when you become a master at something, he goes, it doesn't mean that you make mistakes. It just means that you've learned really well how to cover it up.
Yeah, right.
And so it's a great analogy for life. And so there's a lot of things that I've been able to learn from, watching my dad and what he's done. And so I always enjoy getting to hear, people who've come out of things like the military, combat veterans, just life in general. I mean, there's so much that you can learn from other people. And so with a show like Mission Prep, I think it's a really cool deal too, because you guys are kind of at that point where you being a veteran, Kevin, you can bring those guys in and kind of have that conversation in a really cool light of, there's life after military, right? And civilians aren't just completely 100% ignorant. There's a great light there, and I really enjoy kind of what you guys are doing, and I think it's going to speak to a lot of people with that positivity of being able to just be human, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, like you were just saying, how what your dad said about, people can cover it up. I agree big time. It drives me insane when people like to say how good they are at something and they don't make mistakes. I think we talked about that in our last episode when it comes to raising kids. People who act like they have it figured out, and no way, nobody has anything all figured out. You're gonna make mistakes, and I think the best thing to help other people is to let them know that you made mistakes, so they can hear, oh man, I'm not the only one that's messing up here.
Yeah.
And I know, like me personally, when I'm listening to, say, a podcast or something, somebody's open and honest about mistakes they've made in life and how they got through those mistakes, or anything like that, it's encouraging to me, because I mess up all the time, and as hard as that is to admit for anybody, that when you mess up, knowing that other people mess up, it's going to happen. You can get through it. You can push forward. That's super encouraging,
Oh yeah, by far.
And that's kind of what it's kind of been a theme on our podcast, is people are talking about, ups and downs in life. And we've had a couple people on our show that have been some dark places. And I mean, myself and Kevin included, we've been in, in a bad spot a time or two. And I think people being able to hear about that and hearing that, you can get through it and get out of it, and don't tell everybody, oh, I've got this all figured out. It was super easy, because that's never the case. And I think it's just a lie when anybody says that about anything,
Oh God. Yeah. And it's a fallacy for sure. It's just it's like living that kind of a lie is the equivalent of living the social media lifestyle. It's all fake. It's a snapshot of one moment of a single day, and you can't take that as, that's the full iceberg. Mm-hmm. You're just seeing a little bit of it, and that's a very, very accurate deal. And for me, where I came from with that was, I worked for 10 years between two jobs, and it was pretty much switching one boss that was horrible for another that was even worse. Mm-hmm. And devoting so much time and energy and investing into a company and business that just did not care and did not ultimately want to invest back. And the problem was the work that was getting extracted from pretty much a dry teat was excruciating. And the amount of work that was pulled out from a small crew is just ridiculous. And so the mentality, from where I came from was, I was pretty much told to my face by one of the employers. He said, I make it a habit of hiring above average people, and when you're stupid like this, that makes me regret hiring you. and so when you do that for 4.5 years around that mentality, you really start to think that of yourself.
Yeah.
No matter what encouragement you're getting outside of that. I mean, when you're spending more time at your job than you are with your family, then that becomes your mentality. That becomes your identity.
For sure.
And so then going to the other job, the mentality there was mistakes don't happen. It's perfection or you're a piece of shit. Mm-hmm. Was the mentality. And it's which I get, chasing perfection. You want the best possible outcome, but mistakes are going to happen. Being human is going to happen, and that was not allowed. And so now it's coming through that and coming out of that. I remember I was standing, I was fired from that job and basically told I was the lowest of the low, bottom, feeding piece of crap that ever walked the earth. And I was standing in my kitchen, and my wife had gone to work, and this was just a couple of days after I lost that job. And I remember listening to my son and my nephew playing and laughing upstairs. And that was the first time in 4.5 years that I caught myself smiling and laughing at the joy that they were experiencing. I mean, I had a breakdown. I just lost it.
Mm-hmm.
I was crying on the floor, just like, man, what has happened with the last, 5 years of my life? And so that was kind of the catalyst that really kind of woke me up, was realizing how cold things had become. And that was not too long after that, the original podcast that I was doing, we nixed and stopped doing. But, it was kind of just that breakdown needed to happen. And then fast forward to the very first guest I had on this episode. He and I were talking about, failure and overcoming obstacles. And so we work for a gal that does, she does teething oils and soaps and grooming products and stuff. And she's very, very successful. And she's also probably the sweetest person I've ever met in my life. And so I was in there filling up bottles with this, oils and all this stuff. And he walked in and he and I were talking. And he goes, man, have you had a big spill yet? And I said, thankfully, you've just had some overflows, and it's a pain in the butt to clean this oil up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so he and I were talking about that. And he goes, I knocked like 10 of them over the other day. And this guy, he's a mite older than I am, and he's very successful. He's highly driven. And when he told me that, I kind of stopped, and I was like, man, you just admitted to a big snafu there. And I was thinking this, but then going back to the episode that I did with him and thinking about his mentality, I was like, man, that's crazy, of just being, just allowing yourself to be human. And so it's really dumb, but she was having me make these bath bombs and shrink wrap them to ship out, and I was just being a dumbass and just knocked it off and just completely shattered all of them, right? And so I immediately reverted back to that mentality, that state of mind of the jobs prior, and was like, oh my gosh, this was just the dumbest thing. I'm a horrible human being. And she's like, no, it's no problem. She goes, that happens, and whatever. And so that mentality of, yes, there's this bar that you need to try to meet, but you know what? You're gonna fall short of that, and it's okay. And so that was just the craziest, roller coaster of emotions that I went through in the span of about 10 minutes of, rehashing everything that I had gone through for almost a decade to, this new job of, here I am doing this, bath and body work stuff, but it allowed me to be human.
Mm-hmm.
And it allowed me to go through those emotions, to come at the end of it and go, yeah, people make mistakes and it's okay.
Well, yeah, I mean, in the U.S., you're not allowed to be human because you need to be left brain dominant in every aspect, most jobs you go to. Yep. They don't want that right brain because they don't need it. And a lot of jobs don't need your creativity. Like, oh, you're creative? Cool. I don't fucking need that. Mm-hmm. It makes you a more well-rounded person, and it makes you human. Being able to be vulnerable, being able to be intimate with other people, that's all part of being human. And if you're forced into a place where you have to be left-brained, and then now because of that habitual practice of having to do that, you're doing that at home. Then you're doing it with your kids and your wife, and then you're immediately shut off from being human. You're stuck in this left-brain personality, and then your only outlet becomes music because you can be intimate essentially with yourself trying to write music, so it's unfortunate that's kind of the way it is, don't be human, it's frowned upon.
Right. It's so cold.
Yeah.
It's just cold and just despair, man. That's the way that I can phrase it is just very cold.
Well, I think it also goes back to who you surround yourself with.
Yes.
We've touched on that a few times, but if you're at a job where you're getting treated like complete shit all day, you're going to feel like shit, just like you said.
Yeah.
Or if you have friends that are treating you like crap, or they are bad people themselves and they never do any good in life, that's all you're going to know, and that's how you're going to act as well, typically. I think if you surround yourself with good people who are motivated, who want to do good in the world, you're going to want to do that too. And if you're around people who feel good about themselves, they're going to make you feel good about yourself as well.
Yeah.
And like, if the way I look at it in a job, if you're in a job, I mean, sometimes, yeah, that's the end of the road for somebody. That's the only job they can find. But I think if someone's at a job where they're getting treated like shit all the time, then leave. Just leave. There's always another job. You might not make as much money at another job, but maybe you'll be treated a little better, you know?
Right.
And it's the same relationships, friendships. If you're not being treated well, eventually you're going to be that person that's not treating somebody well. And
yeah,
I don't think that's what people should strive for. You know, you should strive to treat people be kind to people.
Right. How you would want to be treated.
For sure. And that's something, as I've gotten older, I've tried to surround myself with better people, just all around better people.
Yeah.
And I mean, as a teenager, I ran around with a bunch of idiots. And they were always getting in trouble and stuff like that. And I could have gone down that road, which I almost did, but I stepped away. And my circle of friends now is much, much smaller. But man, I've never felt more love than from my couple close friends in my family, you know. And I feel like I'm a better person because of that.
Oh, for sure. And you're exactly right, man. Like, your network is your net worth. And I talked with a guy from Wyoming. He's a bareback bronc rider, and he pretty much said exactly what you're saying. He just phrased it differently, but that's been a very common theme amongst the people who I've talked with, and now you guys is surround yourself with the people who are gonna sharpen you, the people who are gonna make you better, right? And the people who are gonna hold you accountable. And a lot of the people who I was around with, you know, the old show and with that work were people who they were not motivated at all, not one iota. They didn't care about growth in any shape, way, or form other than financial.
Mm-hmm.
And it was all appearance. It was all superficial things. And it was, you know, do we look good doing this? And is this going to make us money? Kind of in that kind of a mentality. And it was so shallow and so just, man, it left you so empty with like almost every encounter, right? And so with the struggle of being stuck at a job, the only thing that's keeping you there is yourself. And that was my fault. And I allowed myself to believe that lie of, I'm stuck here.
Mm-hmm.
I have to have this paycheck. If I don't have this paycheck, then, you know, we're not going to be okay. Well, guess what? We didn't have a final paycheck from when I lost the job. And had it not been for family and true friends who gave us money for groceries that week, we wouldn't have eaten.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? Survived a truck getting repossessed because it could no longer afford to make the payment. Survived close to getting evicted, but you know what? The landlords were great people who decided that they would cut us a deal and help us out just for a few months to get back on our feet. And you know what? We made it. And it was something that I should have done a long time ago that I didn't do. And so now looking at those things going, well, you know what? Hey, that was not even the worst that could have happened. So thank God that's all that happened, right? Thank God that was it. And we made it. We're good. And so life is so much better now. And it's not nearly as certain because that security of a good paycheck isn't there. But but the quality of life is so much better.
Yeah. I mean, money is important. I mean, you need it to survive, but it's not everything. It's not the end all. Me and Kevin, we were both raised pretty similar. You know, not much money in our families, and I remember watching my parents make things work somehow, always. And that's because they were both very hard workers and they did what they had to do. And that's something I've kind of taken from them as I've gotten older. And I've always, I think everybody wants their children to have it better than they had it. And that's something I strive for daily. I have 2 children and I want them to have anything they need to succeed in life. And I don't want to just hand stuff to them. I mean, they need to have a little struggle as well. But I've worked my ass off, and I know Kevin has as well, to get where we are now in life. And it's just, I don't know, it's like you said, if you're at a dead end job and you think, oh man, I need this paycheck, there's other places that are going to give you a paycheck that might treat you a little better, you know?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And yeah, man. And so with touching on providing for your kids, right? That's such like you can feel very guilty for pursuing things that bring you joy,
mm-hmm.
and for doing things that can be beneficial for your mental health. And I know for a long time, you know, for about 5 years, I didn't pick up a guitar. I didn't sing. I didn't play music at all. And that was probably the worst period of time in my life. But every time that I did, every time I sat down to write or I picked up the guitar, it was this excruciating feeling of guilt for doing something that I enjoyed.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's realizing how bad of a lesson that was to teach my kids was, you know, there's a little ting of regret there, but it's going, you know what, I am now trying to teach them that, hey, it's okay to do the things that you do enjoy. It's about balance, but do the things that are going to be good for your mental health and help you get through life. And, you know, providing the tools for them to navigate it, to me, is so much more important than any college fund or, you know, trust fund that you could ever leave them. You know, they have the tools to function. Is just, I mean, why would you want to leave your kids without that?
Yeah, well, like you said, balance. I think balance is key when it comes to that. Kevin and I have talked about this before. I mean, it is important to take care of yourself. Yeah. And I think, like you said, it's important for your kids to see you doing something that you want to do. Like the podcasting, for instance, is something I've always wanted to do. It's like, and we talked about it a little while ago, selfish. And doing this, it takes a little bit of time out of my day away from, I could be doing something with kids, but my kids are seeing me doing something that I've always wanted to do. And Kevin as well, he's doing it. And his kids see that he's doing things, and he does a lot of different activities, whether it's music or the podcast or his school or something. You have to do things in life you want to do, but like you said, it's a balance. It can't be all about you. You need to. Kids also have to know that life's not all about being comfortable and doing things you want to do and having fun. But I think it is really important for them to see you going after things. Like I think I've talked about this before on our show, but I never saw my mom and dad do anything they want to do. It's always work, work, work. And I'm sure they had hopes and dreams and aspirations of things they wanted to do. They just never did because they were trying to provide. So I'm glad I can kind of show my kids, like, you know, I have things I want to do as well. And yeah, I have a full-time job. I work my butt off. But there's a lot of time in the day, and you can find time to do something you want to do, whether it's exercise, if you need to get that done, or go sit down and do a podcast for an hour. Yeah. And you said, like, mental health, podcasting, like you said, is cheaper than therapy.
Yeah, it is.
And it's been, I don't know about Kevin, but it's been really good for me to just sit down and talk with people and hear what they go through and stuff. And for me to be able just to talk and run my mouth and not shut up, just keep talking, because it's healthy to get stuff out there, you think?
Oh, man, for sure. Definitely. It's so cathartic to, you know, when you can talk with like-minded people, but they're also not going to just blow smoke. You know, that's such a breath of fresh air to be able to do. And that's what I love about podcasting in the community, is you have some very genuine people who are just unabashedly themselves. And it's a very, in the right atmosphere, it's the most authentic thing you'll ever meet, because it's just raw, real humanity.
Seriously, yeah. I've probably brought that up so many times in our podcast already, but I'm like innately bothered by people that aren't genuine. It throws me off in a conversation or just in an environment. You know, if it's in the store, anywhere, or you know, meeting someone professionally as well. and they're not genuine. You can tell, you can see right through it, and
Yeah.
it's almost belittling or condescending because you feel like, oh, like I'm not important enough, or not, I don't matter enough that you can just fucking let go, you know. Or they're doing it just to be a prick, right? But
right, it could. I mean, who knows the reason?
Yeah.
But it's so off-putting.
yes, they're shut off to you, but they're standing in front of you talking to you at the same time. Essentially, it's just kind of a weird dichotomy. Like, you know, I'm not going to give you who I really am. I'm going to fucking like blow you full of just smoke, and you know, it's like, yeah, but you're just wasting my time at this point, you know, and. Yeah, maybe they're just suffering in life. A lot of people are. A lot of people will find meaning in suffering, and they just sit there and they hang out in it, and they can't be genuine with anybody. And they just need help.
Yeah.
But
well, that kind of brings it back to what you were saying about, you know, with the U.S. and they want that left brain, right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't be creative. So many successful businessmen that I've come into contact with who just, it's a bottom line. It's what's the bottom line here?
Mm-hmm.
You know, how much can I get out of this? How much can I get out of you? They're so cold and calculated with that, where it's, oh my gosh, it's just so heartbreaking to see that you have to be miserable to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
Versus, no, you can be successful and still be a human being and still be true to who you are. And so with you talking about, you know, the, you know, people dressing a certain way, kind of those tropes of, you know, engineers or, you know, physicists or, you know, musicians, whatever it is, you know, I come across that so much with, you know, different artists. It's, well, I play Americana or I play folk or I play pop, whatever, and they all feel like they have to look the part. Man, I just throw a flannel on and some Converse, and I throw whatever hat I got on my closet right there on, and I just go play.
Mm-hmm.
Be like, well, what kind of music do you play? Like,
Yeah.
Play a little of everything, honestly.
Yeah.
Most country, Texas country, pop, whatever, Billy Joel, Elton John, I love it all, you know?
Yeah.
And they're like, really? Like, yeah. And so it kind of throws things for a loop because I'm not putting on an air of like, oh, when you look at me, you see what it is you're going to get.
Yeah.
And so it's, people are so multifaceted. There's so many avenues to a person. What you were talking about, of kind of like having those you know, multiple personalities, as it were, of you've got all these different things that you want to do. That's human nature. It's a diamond in the rough, you know, eventually becomes this beautiful creation of all these different cuts and all these different things that make it up of what it is. It's not just one singular thing, and that's people, and it's humanity. And so I really love it when I get to meet people who, on the surface, they seem, you know, like a genuine person, but then there's so much more going on underneath, and there's so much more that they have, you know, like with what Jake was saying about you growing up, of, you know, you were this, you know, kind of athlete, the sports guy, kind of hid the intelligence, as it were, but now it's kind of coming out with all of that and being unabashedly, yeah, I'm going to be myself. I'm still going to call you guys, you know, freaking nerds, because you are, but I'm in this class too, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, it's just being true to yourself. It's being true to your nature, and it's a freeing place to be when you get there. It's such a freeing place.
Yeah, I think it's important for, I just touched on this, but to do things that you want to do, because I think you're going to do a better job at doing those things.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I mean, I wish we could make our podcast, that's my full-time job, because I have a feeling like I'd put everything I have into it, because I like to do it. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's kind of a hobby right now. We don't make money doing it right now.
Right. Likewise.
Which it would be amazing to make money doing it, because we like to do it. I mean, you know. But it's something that we wanted to do, and that's why I have no problem putting time and effort and some money into doing this. Kevin and I both have put a lot of effort and time into our show and trying to learn how to do it all, but it's because it's something we really want to do.
Yeah. And
I guess there's no certain outfit for podcasting. You know, you don't have to dress a certain way to podcast.
No, I don't. At least if there is, I didn't get the, you know, the memo on the dress code.
I didn't either. Dang it. Yeah. Well, no, it's funny. You know, there's some jobs where, because you were talking about like dressing a certain way. There's some jobs that you see someone dressed a certain way, you almost know what they do for a living. And like one example, I used to work on a cattle ranch, and there's an outfit for that. I mean, you know what somebody does typically. Yeah. But then that can become your identity as well, which I don't think is a good thing.
Yeah, it just becomes determinism.
Yeah,
because I dress this way, I got to act this way, be into these things, and I got to suppress everything down that it might be part of my ego or identity. You know,
for sure.
Yeah. And yeah, like that. What was that called? Like something that we think your name. It was like it was Tom Hanks' sons, like determinism. So you have Colin Hanks and you have Chet Hanks. And Colin Hanks looks like a successful like actor. He's well put together, and Chet looks like a fucking mess. Like he's got like fucking tattoos everywhere, like nose piercings, and he's just like he's like not doing anything with his life. You know, it's like determinism. You have a Colin and a Chet. You know,
well, I don't think it's healthy to let either your job or anything you do in life determine who you are as a person. Like when I worked on that cattle ranch, that was my life, and that's a little different. I mean, when you're working on a ranch, that's kind of all you do.
Yeah, for sure.
But like when I worked there, I wore cowboy boots, Wranglers, button-up shirt, cowboy hat, and even after I left that line of work, for years I wouldn't even wear shorts because I never could work in there. There was never a time to wear shorts.
Right.
And then, so like that was my identity, and also I'm almost putting on a front. Like, look at me, I'm this badass wearing blue jeans and boots in 110 degree weather.
Yeah.
And as I got a little older and realized like I can just be myself, I'm going to throw on some cargo shorts and a t-shirt and some tennis shoes, you know. And then I had this thing in my head like people are going to judge me if I don't look a certain way, and that wasn't the case. I mean, now, I'll wear the way I dress now is different almost every day. I don't have a uniform. You know what I mean?
Yeah, just being comfortable in your own skin and being a dad.
Yeah,
just, you know, we're not wearing the fucking 409s yet or anything.
throw on that fanny pack, some New Balances.
New Balance 409s, man, like 406, whatever.
The Suburban Dad starter pack.
Yeah,
it's a propane grill, New Balance, and apron. Oh man.
So
yeah, man. No, I totally hear what you're saying, and I talking with a few folks. And kind of touching back too on the mentality of work in the U.S. is one of the things that I hate when you meet somebody new is when they ask you, "Oh, so what do you do?"
Mm-hmm.
And it's, well, do you want to know what I do for a vocation? Do you want to know what I do for a hobby? Do you want to know what I do for fun? There's a lot of avenues to that. Do you want to know who I am as a person? Because that's a completely different question.
Yeah, they want to put a label on you so that they can know where they stand in the conversation. You know, they want power. You know.
Well, I think a person's career it kind of says a little bit about a person, but it doesn't say everything about them. No. I mean, like me, for instance, I'm a truck driver for a living. That's what I do. Yeah. But I'm not like the typical truck driver. It's hard to explain, like the stereotypical truck driver. Right. Like if I look at some of the older generation of truck drivers, they fit that stereotype for sure. But then myself, I don't feel like I do fit that stereotype because it says a little bit about me what I do for a living, what I pick to do, but it's not everything. There's a lot more to a person than what they do.
And dude, like if I was a truck driver, I'd be like, you ever seen Over the Top? Like that's what I do, man. You guys roll to fucking these flying J's up the highway and just start tearing dudes' arms off.
well, and it's funny because most people, they think a truck driver, they think out of shape, fat, redneck, you know, all these different things. But there's guys like myself who I am out of shape and fat, but I'm not the stereotypical out of shape and fat, you know. And there's guys that look like Kevin who's in very good shape who do that line of work as well. It's you can't. It doesn't determine who you are. Some people let it determine who they are, like I did when I worked on that ranch. But there's more to life, and I think hobbies, like you said, are important. They're like this whole podcasting thing. That's a whole another part of my life now. That I think it's important to have extracurricular activities in your life.
Yeah, definitely. It's it can keep you grounded, but can also help you with. This might sound cheesy, but it can help you with hope. It can help you with feeling encouraged and to pursue with more gusto, I guess, more energy in your life. It can help you with that. And so with, you talking about wishing the podcast could be your full-time job, I think every podcaster gets into it going, oh God, I wish I could do this full time. And I know I did. I know I'm thinking like, man, this would be amazing if I could have this be a very lucrative business. And it's totally possible. It just takes so much freaking work and time to get there.
I was going to say time. I think everybody's looking for instant gratification with anything they do. Yeah. And I'm guilty of that as well, starting this podcast. I mean, we put a lot of work into this thing before it ever even launched.
Yep.
And I'm good at accepting reality and thinking, okay, this isn't going to blow up and be 5 million views, and all that, or downloads. But in the back of my mind, I was thinking, okay, we have something here. I think this could be successful. Yeah. And I think it's good to have hope, like you said. But you also, anything in life, you got to accept reality and realize you got to keep putting in that hard work if you want it to work out for you.
Yeah.
And
every overnight success has 10 years behind it. And,
for sure.
So it's just so much work and time and dedication and just kind of learning what works. And so, I joined a lot of podcast groups and forums to try to learn and to see kind of what other people are doing and to try to promote amongst other podcasters because, having that community is really good. It's a great thing to be a part of the community. But it's also not a necessity. It's also not one of those make it or break it things where, if you're not in this niche or doing this or doing that, you're going to fail. And you know what? I've seen brands and companies just explode because of hard work and perseverance over people who've had companies that have just completely flopped with all the money in the world behind them.
Yeah.
And you don't have to have a coherent, cohesive brand right out the gate. You don't have to have all of your T's crossed and I's dotted and have perfection coming out of the chute. What you need is to start. And what you need is the drive to continue and to keep going. And that's what ultimately is going to be the make it or break it factor. And so that was one of the things with my show, with All at Sea, is, people are all too often afraid to fail because they are afraid to start. And failure isn't just a cutoff, that's it, you're done, no more. That's how many times did Edison try to make the bulb, right? How many times did he try to make a light bulb? Like 2,000? Why would you continue after the 100th? Why would you keep going? And what's the why behind it? Well, because he believed in what he was doing. And so if you believe, failure is just a stepping stone. Failure is just the beginning. And so there's this mentality of, well, if it doesn't succeed, what am I going to do? Well, if you're asking yourself that, then you're not 100% into this.
Yeah, and also if it doesn't succeed, maybe it's never going to, move on to something else.
Yep.
You got to keep moving is, I think, important.
No, that's very true. Yeah.
Well, and like you mentioned, like having a brand and stuff. I hate that term, the brand. It's like
yes.
And yeah, I mean, I guess it's a thing, or having a little niche in something.
Yeah.
But like, I think the most important brand is just be a person, just do your thing, and the right people will end up attaching themselves to you. We've seen that with our show. It's starting to gain a little bit of a following, and it's really cool to watch that happen. And it's kind of an organic thing. We're not really pushing it to happen. It's just it's slow. It's a slow burn, but I think in the long run, if it continues to grow, that'll be more satisfying.
Slow growth is better than a giant leap.
Yeah, for sure.
It really is. And that's true for anything. Small progress, small steps in the right direction. And so it comes down to, it's like, man, if you want to do something, then just do it. And success is a variable that changes to the individual. And so whatever your definition of success is, if you're not meeting that level of success, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're failing. It just means that maybe you need to get a new perspective on what success means to you in this endeavor. And because you might find that you actually are successful. And you know, it doesn't mean that you're going to make all the money in the world or have the most downloads or be ranked number one. But you know what, to be in the niche, to be in the community, and to have people listening to what you're doing, and to have people who care about that is success in and of itself.
Oh, for sure. I also think, like, when it comes to podcasting, especially, I think it's cool doing what we're doing right now. We're both pretty similar podcasts. We probably have kind of the same style of an audience, but we're going to both put this out. People are going to listen to it. I'd love for the people listeners to go listen to your show.
Yeah,
and
likewise.
I don't see it as like competition. There's so many people that listen to podcasts. There's also about 1 million cajillion podcasts.
Yeah.
But
God, yeah.
But I think there's more people listening to podcasts than there is podcasts. And it's, some people might think of it as competition. But like, I know when I found I don't remember how I found out about you. I don't know if you followed us or I followed you, something like that. And I checked.
It was probably when I was just spamming liking photos.
Actually, yeah. I did. I got a like for that's what happened. And so I checked your stuff out and I was like, oh wow, this is kind of similar. Even the wording in your bio was similar. But I didn't think anything bad about it. I'm like, that's cool. Like this guy's kind of trying to do the same thing we're doing. And then I listened to your show and it's good and it's very similar. You're sitting down talking with people and I hope people that listen to our show go and start checking yours out. I know it's hard for some people who have like 5 podcasts they try to get in every week. I'm one of those people. I try to listen to certain ones, but every now and then it's cool to have something fresh to listen to, even if you don't know who this person is or anything, because you might find something you like, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree. And that's what's beautiful about podcasting, music, streaming services now. It's you can tailor your listening to your taste, but there's also so much out there that you have access to that you never know what you might learn from something. And I mean, there's shows that I've listened to for a long time where I'm not necessarily like the biggest fan, but because of what they do and who they have on, there's always something to learn from. And so I typically when I listen to something, it's because I go 90 to nothing all day long. My mind is constantly racing. When I listen to something, I typically wanted to go for like the entertainment aspect, right? Mm-hmm. So I could kind of shut off and just enjoy something. But now that I'm getting older, I've realized I find myself listening to, shows like Mission Prep, shows like The Way I Heard It, with Mike Rowe, things like that, more interview-based podcasts where I can listen to something. And The Way I Heard It's not an interview podcast, but it's kind of more just like an interesting take in storytelling.
Yeah.
But things that tell a story, avenues where you can hear an experience, you can hear somebody's journey, their trauma, and how they've come to the other side of that, and the fact that they're there today to talk about it. And so, with shows, like what we're doing, I think it's a great opportunity for people to be that fly on the wall again. And you're totally right, man. It's not a competition. And when you get into it going from an attitude of, oh, this is a competition, I have to be better or have more following or more downloads or more subscribers, whatever, then you're not in it for the right reasons.
Exactly.
And it's just a matter of time until it tanks.
Well, like our show's having pretty similar demographics.
Yeah.
It's cool to, like, the people that listen to your show, now they're going to know about our show, and that's awesome. And people listen to our show are going to know about your show and give them something else to go listen to. And I just think it's cool. The more stuff that's out there for people to check out, it's more entertainment. It's more, especially at a time right now where there's a lot of people just sitting home with nothing to do.
Yeah.
They need something to put their attention to. So why not, check out everything you can.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And, especially for parents who, I don't know about you guys, but I find myself cleaning more often than I would love to admit, from kids, cooking and, just life. But
you mean like all the time?
Yeah. So when I'm taking a break from cleaning to do a podcast, it's man, it's the perfect time to put in your headphones and just, go about your business and just listen to something new. But it's also this, sharing experiences and sharing journeys and coming through that. the tagline that I have on the bio is "Someone's story is another survival guide," and that's from the very first episode with my buddy AJ, who I talked about earlier. He was on the brink of suicide, and he kind of found a way through that and has strived to be better ever since.
Mm-hmm.
And so that journey, that testimony, that story right there is a lot of people's story. It's a lot of people's situation. And so when guys like you come along and you're like, hey man, we found your show, we kind of do similar things, we'd love to connect. That mentality right there is what's going to help stories like, yours or AJ's or mine reach more people and help more people. And that's what's going to really pull a community together and a community of positivity to help people become better and ultimately strive to get out of that rut or ask for help or to realize that they have a choice.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's really great about, a mindset like you've got is that right there can reach way more people.
For sure. Yeah. So actually, I want to ask, how long have you been doing this podcast?
Dude, this one I started, I think I started in June or July. I'll have to look at when the episodes dropped,
Mm-hmm.
but it's June or July when I started.
Oh, cool. How many episodes have you got in so far?
This will be 21.
Nice. Yeah, so you're a little further ahead of it than us. I think this will be 13 for us, I think. But yeah, I think we started in, September? Yeah. Something like that.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Yeah,
y'all are trucking along.
Yeah, we try to release one every week. I think we had 1 week where we missed one because we're trying to stay consistent with it because I know that's also important to keep people continue listening. We had 1 week where we both had some things going on. We had to put it off. So now we're trying to like stay one ahead, so we have one in the bank to throw on if we need to.
Oh yeah, that's such a challenge, man.
yeah, it is. Like as of right now, like this what we're recording right now will be released next week, a week from today. Yeah. So right now we're doing pretty good with keeping it one ahead, and if anything comes up, we have one, but. Like I said, we had to miss that 1 week, and I was kind of like, "Oh no, people are gonna quit listening to us."
Yeah,
but yeah, it's cool. It's a weird little journey trying to learn the podcasting because it's all brand new to both Kevin and I.
Right.
But
yeah, man, it's a labor of love, and I look at it as it's kind of sowing, planting the field as it were. To sow something that's going to be a really cool harvest down the road, because it's weird how there's some podcasts that just come out and then all of a sudden they just blow up, right? And so my wife and I started one. She's a huge true crime fan and just like all things murder. It's kind of worrying me. Yes, I'm like, listen. You sure do like that show Snapped a lot.
Yeah.
And, I'm like, you just can fall asleep to Forensic Files. And so she's like the basic white girl trope of, Uggs, pumpkin spice, and murder.
Yeah.
And so she was like, I really want to do this. So we started a true crime podcast. And so I really started looking at a variety of shows. And for whatever reason, there was a massive influx of true crime podcasts that just all of a sudden just popped up.
Mm-hmm.
And I was dumbfounded with the amount that are out there. And there's some that started just maybe 3 months ago, and they're talking about, man, we've got 14,000 downloads, we've got 20,000 downloads.
Jeez,
like, how the hell did you do that? What are you guys doing? And so I don't know if they just have a massive push from friends, family, connections, whatever, or if they have the funds to go, like, promote and not really buy listens, but kind of get listens. I don't know. But hearing those stories, I had seen that, a couple of years ago when I started the original podcast, I would have been completely defeated. I'd have been like, man, how in the hell, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? And now with, just the enjoyment aspect of being able to do it, it's great. That's awesome. Keep going. Get another 20. Get another 20K. That's great. I'm going to enjoy my 50 downloads that I had this past month, and I'm going to keep shooting for another 50, Yeah,
it blows my mind that, like, I've seen a few new shows, even shows that are kind of similar to ours, and they blow up right away. And I don't know how they do that. It's obviously, I'm lost on that because, like, when it comes to promotion and stuff, I know, like, social media helps, friends and family help, but
yeah, totally
trying to, because that, I mean, all in all, that's what I think we all want is more people to listen to our show. Getting the reach out there it's kind of a weird game that I think we're trying to figure out. You probably are as well. But yeah, I don't know. But I think doing things like this help,
Definitely. Like cross kind of, I guess, like this is like a crossover deal, I think is how it's phrased, but like cross promotion, getting connected into a community and finding kind of like-minded shows, I think are a paramount deal in that as well. And, so for me, I can get very, like I can get the blinders on. And so I can kind of just put my nose down and just work. And I forget sometimes how important, networking is. So that's why I enjoy the slap in the face of when somebody like you comes along and they're like, hey, we enjoy your show. We want to connect. I'm like, oh shit, I got to figure out what I'm doing here.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's really, really good. And so that's one of the things that I have trouble with is because I get caught up in the doing that I forget in the connecting aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the biggest thing for me that I've had such a hard time with is just like the connecting with other people who do this thing. And some of that stems from just being self-conscious about it because I feel like I ramble a lot and I hate listening back to my own voice. So it's
same.
Like a really big pain in the butt. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's like, man, people are gonna think I'm stupid.
Yeah. Well, I think it's important to get to that point where you just don't care what people think, and I feel like I'm starting to get there. Because in the beginning, I was super self-conscious about, like, what did I say? Because I'm people that know me personally, they know I ramble. That's the type. I love to talk, and I will talk your ear off. And I'm trying to be more self-aware and not do that, especially on our show. Especially when we have a guest sitting in here, we want them to be the one to talk.
Yeah.
But there is times.
But it's good for a podcast, though.
Yeah, and there's times I'll go off on tangents, and Kevin does the same. And I mean that's what the podcast is for. You're supposed to talk.
Exactly.
And so I'm trying to not be as self-conscious about it. And I'm a pretty hard critic on myself with a lot of things I do, but you gotta, I think, just not be as hard on yourself, especially when it comes to that's what you're supposed to be doing in the podcast is talking,
Yeah, definitely.
It kind of goes back to what you were saying earlier of just being authentic to yourself.
Yeah.
And
the right people will. The right people will follow. They'll start listening. And we've talked about that on here before, because like I edit the episodes, but for now, I mean, all I do is really get rid of a little background noise. We have some technical difficulties. Like a couple minutes ago, our mics were being weird, and so I try to edit out things like that. Yeah. But in the beginning, I was like, the people, a guest or Kevin or myself would say something that didn't quite, I don't know the right wording for it, but it made you sound kind of like an asshole. And so I would go in and edit that out and stuff like that. And as we've gone on, I've quit doing that. I just let it roll, and if people like it, then they can listen. If not, don't listen. And also, people, I think most people realize, you can make mistakes. You're gonna say stupid stuff sometimes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm gonna say stupid stuff all the time. I'm not an astrophysicist, so
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Like, I like we were talking about earlier, letting people know that I make mistakes.
Yeah,
it happens, and if someone doesn't want to listen to your show because you say a non-politically correct word or something like that, you don't mean any harm by it, then don't listen. That's the way I look at it. Right. And
there's the 15-second forward button, or there's the
exactly, exactly. And I don't know. I think it's important to be yourself. Mm-hmm. And like we had one episode, we brought one of our good friends in here. He's my brother-in-law. And we just sat around and just BS'd, and there was nothing to it. And it's actually been a pretty popular episode download wise.
Yeah, I listened to that one the other day.
Okay, yeah. And so we've talked about bringing on a few more of our friends and stuff, because our friends they're pretty eccentric, and when we all get together, we all say stupid things, especially if alcohol's involved.
Oh, yeah.
But it's fun. It's a good time, and like I said, that episode has done pretty well, and I didn't think it would, but it's done all right. So,
well, that's one of the things that's endearing about a podcast when you listen to it, and when you have a dynamic like what you're talking about right there, you've got your brother-in-law and friend in the studio, and you guys are having this kind of back and forth. There's camaraderie, there's familiarity that you get from between you three, and you get that feeling, and you, as the listener, getting to hear this, that's being the fly on the wall. It really, truly is.
For sure.
So you are in that situation, and so it's kind of like being a fourth wheel without the awkward feeling of being present there. And so you get to be in this kind of group of friends, or this group of people who've known each other, and maybe there's inside jokes or certain things like that, but you get this feeling of friendship, like I said, familiarity, and you get, as the listener, I enjoy that, and that's one of the things that endeared me to podcasts, like that are kind of more in that vein of where there's a lot of hosts, maybe 3 or 4, just going to go back and forth and touch on stuff, but in an interview-based podcast, like with what you guys typically do, those moments of levity kind of really endear people to the show even more, I think, because that's real, and people like community, feeling included into something, and that's what those situations do.
Yeah, I listened to one of yours. You had a good friend of yours on. I think he was the one, his house burnt down recently or something like that.
Yeah,
that was
my buddy Jim.
Yeah, and I noticed that with you guys, you had like a camaraderie going, and it was really like easy listening. It was kind of cool.
Yeah,
I think it's good for people to hear, because then they also hear more of the real you. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
because like you said, you're more comfortable.
Yeah,
but
and I talked to I'm trying to remember, it was one of the Zoom shows that I did, and I think it was with he does the Lone Star Outdoor Show down here in Texas, but it was the first time that I had talked with him, and we kind of had corresponded via Instagram and an email, but we had never spoken, and he's an extremely I know exactly who I am, what I need to get out of this, and bare bones, like, he knows his shit and what he needs to do. And I'm kind of more just kind of go with the flow, whatever. And so it was a little intimidating talking with him in the beginning, because doing Zoom, it feels so cold and robotic, and you feel like you have to be more professional. That, at least that's how it was for me. And it was just kind of this weird disconnect, where when I had my buddy in the studio, or people in here talking, it was, you get those nuances and those facial expressions and those kind of social cues, whereas in this you don't. And it's very unsettling, and so I finally had to just go, what, I just got to have fun with it and enjoy it, and just no matter what, just if I'm going to say something that makes myself laugh, I'm going to do it, and not care. And so it's a very difficult thing to learn and kind of disconnect from that feeling of being disconnected. If that makes sense.
Yeah, we have so this is our first Zoom one, like I said, and then we have a few lined up now that are going to be Zoom. We have there's a pro fighter that's coming on, stuff like that, and
nice
people we've never met, so including yourself, but I still like, this doesn't seem much different to me doing it over Zoom compared to sitting in person, minus the fact of the facial cues or social cues and facial expressions and all that. I mean, you could do video, but conversation's conversation, and
yes,
the more people you can reach, I think the better.
Oh, by far, man.
But yeah, so I guess we can wrap this up. We've been I don't even know how long we've been going, but go ahead and plug your show and all that good stuff.
Yeah, man. So people can find it on, Podbean, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. I always get confused because I want to say iTunes, but Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, pretty much any streaming platform that whatever your preferred listening platform for podcasts is, you can find it. It's all at sea, and you can also visit my website, allatc.squarespace.com, and I've got a podcast platforms tab on there, so you could find your preferred listening platform, directly take you to the show via those links, as well as you can see the roster of guests that I've had available on the show, and just different odds and ends on the site that you can check out, and follow the socials as well. It's All at Sea Podcast pretty much on everything. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the show there. And if people want to know more about me, they can find that on the website as well. And my music Instagram is Billy Lister Music on Instagram, and on the socials as well. And yeah, man, I appreciate you guys reaching out and giving me the opportunity to kind of be a little bit of a guest on a show, because that hasn't happened yet. So it's kind of a neat experience.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And so, I mean, we're doing like a crossover deal. So you guys, shout out your show as well, and where people can find you and what you do.
Yeah. So it's Mission Prep Podcast. It has nothing to do with LDS or Mormon, which happened in the beginning a lot because of the missionary thing, I guess. A lot of people were having a hard time finding it, but now it's, from what I hear, it's pretty easy to find.
Yeah, when I Googled it, I found the Mormon thing.
Yep.
Man, what did I get myself into?
Yep. Yeah, that was I think it is still that way on Google, but any podcast platform you type in Mission Prep, you're going to see it.
Yes.
It's so yeah, we're on all the same ones you mentioned: Spotify, Apple. I put them up on YouTube as well. We don't have video, but the audio is on YouTube, and we do have some people listening on there. Stitcher, Google Podcasts, anywhere you listen to podcasts, and we also have an Instagram. It's Mission Prep Podcast, and we post our episodes and random things on there. We really want people to listen to this to follow our Instagram. We have Facebook and a Twitter and all that too, but we want them to follow our social media so we kind of know who's listening and what people think and stuff like that. So if people want to follow us on any of those platforms, that's cool. And yeah, that's it, I guess.
Right on, man. I'll put I always put links and everything in the show notes, so I'll make sure that I put all of those where people can find you on, across the socials and
cool.
Facebook, all that stuff in the show notes there. And so with my website, I try to get a good, like I call it a promo shot, of whatever good picture you guys have got, so that way I can put that on social media, and I'll do like a little excerpt from the show, kind of a highlight or whatever.
Yeah, gotcha.
But so if you guys have a specific one that you want to share, if you don't mind, I can just rip one from your Instagram page or something.
Yeah.
And feel free to do that likewise with mine.
For sure.
If you need me to send you something, I can. But yeah, man, just let me know however I can help you guys with promotion or shouting it out. Don't hesitate to hit me up on that, because I don't mind doing that at all.
Perfect.